Hi.
Well, first, thank you for doing this. Yeah, you can look at me or you can look at the camera. Yeah.
Sure.
First, about your name. Yeah. Is this your maiden's name or is
No,
it?
Cassese is my married name. D'Ambrosi is my maiden name.
D'Ambrosi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see my questions here.
Sure.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little about your early childhood before school? Yeah, anything that you think that is relevant about your birth, about something that you remember?
I was born here in Raleigh, and yeah, I just
In a hospital or in a
yes,
house? Okay.
yeah, in a hospital during a blizzard in February of '79, and we lived in that house until I was 2, and then we stayed in the same neighborhood but moved to a different house. And I vaguely remember moving. I was 2, so I vaguely remember that move, and don't really remember the first house that we lived in. But yeah, just
Okay.
yeah.
And I know that you are a gymnast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your decision or your parents' decision?
It was my decision. When I watched the '84 Olympics, I fell in love with Mary Lou Retton, and I had to be a gymnast. I went and my mom got me the leotard that they wore in the Olympics, and I started taking classes at the community center there on Green Road, and yeah, that was all me wanting to.
And
be just
how
like those
old
girls.
were you?
I was 5.
5? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And we went to the community center there on Green Road. That was where my sisters played basketball and we played softball. And so I started there. There was a gymnastics class that they had for kids that was, I think it was only 1 day a week. Maybe it was 2 days a week. And I remember going to another gymnastics gym for kind of like a recital. We had a little routine that we did on the beam, the bars, and the floor in a vault, and that was when the instructor. I did that for a year, and the instructor went to my mom and was like, "She really should probably go to like Raleigh School of Gymnastics. Like she's got potential. So I don't want to hold her back. You know, she loves it. So that's when I went over to Raleigh School of Gymnastics and started taking classes there. And I took rec classes for maybe 2 years, and then they invited me on team when I was in 3rd grade, and so I was about 8, and I went on.
When you say team, is a Raleigh team? Or
Yeah, it's
North
a private gym. Raleigh School of Gymnastics is a private gym. There's other private gyms, like here in Apex we have Team Attraction and Peak Gymnastics. So Raleigh School was the one that was closest to our house, and yeah, I started on their junior team and practiced twice a week and started doing compulsory level competitions and worked my way up into from junior team to, I wasn't in their senior team. I think it was the intermediate team was what they called it. Worked up through intermediate, and then I pulled out of the private gym when I was in high school and competed for Millbrook High School for a couple of years. Yeah.
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 And then this went to what age?
So I was at the private gym from competing from 8 until I guess I was 14. I think because I got into high school and I made the cheerleading squad, and I tried to do cheerleading and gymnastics, and it just was too much. So I was about 14 when I quit the private gym, and then my sophomore and junior year, I competed for Millbrook. So I quit when I was 17.
And do you think that helped you in your yoga path?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the strength and body awareness and flexibility, yeah, definitely. It was a good foundation, yeah.
And do you think that sometimes that can, on the other hand, kind of, how can I say, be an obstacle to something that is in your yoga practice? Or
Yeah, I think a gymnast always strives for perfectionism, and so yeah, trying to let that go in yoga and know that like you don't have
and
to
everything
do
beautiful,
exactly
and beautiful.
pointed toes, and yeah, exactly, yeah. That was something to get used to when instructors like in half moon pose when they're like flex your foot, and I'm like, flex your foot? That doesn't look pretty at all.
Or when you are doing something difficult and
yeah, and you fall. Yes, absolutely, that happens too.
Nobody's watching.
That's
you.
right. I'm not being scored. Exactly.
And let's see, I already skipped some.
Yeah.
Oh, and how does yoga enter your life, or how did you start practicing?
So, yeah, I was a freshman at East Carolina, and I wanted to keep up my flexibility and strength from gymnastics. And you see, yoga. This was in the late '90s, so yoga was kind of emerging as becoming more popular, and so you were seeing, people doing handstands and arm balances and stuff, and I was like, oh, I can do that. Yeah. If that's what I need to do
what
keep
people
up.
struggle with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so simple.
Yeah. So there was the rec center at East Carolina. They offered yoga classes, like 6-week classes. I think it was 6 weeks, maybe it was 8. But you could pay for the session of classes, and then they would take 2 or 3 weeks off and have a new session start. So I started my freshman year in the wintertime doing those yoga sessions. And it was twice a week. It was like a Tuesday and Thursday for an hour. And yeah, so it was fun. It was interesting. I remember my first few classes, I was like, why do we keep doing this down dog? What is this pose, and why do we keep doing it? My hands kept sliding on the mats because I don't even know if we had mats. I think it was a carpeted studio, and I don't think we had mats.
Well, on a carpet is hard.
Yes, and I was sliding all over the place, and I was like, this is not what I thought yoga was going to be. It was a very gentle, basic class.
Okay.
And but it wasn't enough that I was like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, so I don't want to do it anymore. It was just like, this is different, and okay, maybe I just have to get used to this, kind of thing. So yeah, I did a couple sessions, and the instructor, I think her name was Debbie Nicewinder. She was really good. Yeah, Nicewinder. It was like a German name, and she was like, you have very good form, you have very good understanding of the poses, and I was thinking, whew, because I don't feel like I know what I'm doing in here, and she was like, you really need to keep up with your yoga practice, like you've got a knack for it. And I had paid for 2 sessions. I think it was late fall, and then when we came back from winter break, I paid for another session, and she was like, don't pay for any more sessions, just come to class when you can. And I was like, wow, okay. Yeah.
That's a big motivation.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really kind of her. I don't know if she just thought, oh, poor college student, like, you've got, you obviously.
Well, but she also saw potential.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Not only as, how can I say, not as you being your practice, but probably say, well, if she really gets to maybe she gets a bug, become a teacher.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe.
And when did you decide to become a teacher?
So I was after taking Debbie's classes, I then became a group fitness instructor at my sophomore year in college. My degree is in exercise physiology, and so they came around to our exercise science classes asking if anybody would be interested in teaching group fitness, that they were hiring instructors at the rec center to teach step, kickboxing, aqua fitness, cycle, the whole gamut of group fitness classes. And I thought, well, that would probably look good on a resume. So sure. Little did I know I had a dance background with gymnastics and cheerleading, but I did not really truly understand like an 8-count beat and how to not only count the beat but teach other people how to cue them and do what I wanted them to do. So the manager of the group fitness program there at the rec center had all of us new hires come and do a week-long intensive in the summertime with him. And we learned the basics of a 4-count, an 8-count, a 16, a 32, how to choreograph a high-low class, a step class, when you need to cue. It was so intense. I mean, I think we were together 8 hours a day for an entire week, going over choreography and counts and beats and different beats per minute of music. Yeah, it was a crash course in how to teach group fitness. So then I taught everything. I taught high-low, step, circuit classes, cycle classes, aqua classes, everything. And then I graduated from college and moved to Portland for chiropractic college and got a job teaching step classes. I taught a step class at 5:45 in the morning on Monday and Wednesday, and an aqua fitness class in the evenings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it was at the gym that I was teaching, I started taking the yoga classes there. And the yoga teacher there, he was an ordained minister, and he had like a last minute friends that decided to get married on the coast of Oregon. And he said, I have to take off. Can you sub my class? And I was like, no. I have no idea how to teach yoga. And he was like, but you come to my classes, you know what I teach, you're a group fitness instructor, you know how to cue people, you'll be fine. And so here I was doing these like daisy things that he would do, and I was like, I'm so not doing this correctly, and these people are probably laughing and they just want to walk out on me. That was the first yoga class I taught, was subbing for him. And then the gym brought in Les Mills, which is it's a franchise out of New Zealand of group fitness classes. They have Body Pump, Body Combat, and Body Flow was their yoga, Tai Chi, and Pilates fusion class. So I got trained in that and started teaching Body Flow. I also got trained in mat Pilates. So I was teaching Body Flow, Pilates, and Aqua Fitness at that gym. And so teaching Body Flow was technically how I started teaching yoga. And when I moved back to North Carolina after I graduated chiropractic college, I started teaching Pilates at a couple different gyms, and Body Pump, that was their barbell class. So I was teaching Body Pump at O2 Fitness in Cary, and I met Dharma, Margaret, she was Margaret at that time, and she completed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she completed all of her master teacher training and got her name Dharma, and but she taught a yoga class on Saturday mornings before my Body Pump class. And so if she had to be out of town for her teacher trainings, I would sub her class. Yeah, so I started teaching, I think it was Body Flow on Monday nights at O2 Fitness, and Body Pump on Saturdays, and then subbing for Margaret at those times. And that was before she opened the yoga garden, so that was when this was years and years ago.
And at that time, do you think that being a certified yoga teacher was important, or no?
No, it wasn't important, because yoga still was not at the level that it is today. It was still just like, oh, you can teach yoga, you know what down dog is and what a warrior pose is, okay, go teach. That was how the managers at the gyms were. Now yoga studios were around. They were not very abundant. There was another woman that taught yoga at O2 Fitness that was teaching at the Blue Lotus. The Blue Lotus had just opened in downtown Raleigh, and so she was teaching there. And I remember going down there and taking her Juicy Yoga Flow class. It was like a 90-minute intense vinyasa class. It was amazing. It reminded me of the Ashtanga vinyasa classes that I took in Portland when I was living in Portland. So yoga studios were starting to pop up a little bit more around the area. This was mid-2000s, like 2006, 2007. But primarily people were going to the gym for yoga. And so even in that setting, though, it wasn't true yoga, because the gyms were afraid of being too spiritual. And so, yes, yeah, don't cross those lines. You're just teaching people to stretch.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does chiropractic, yeah, enter in this?
Yeah, so chiropractic, I mean, as a whole has nothing to do with yoga. I mean, it's just a separate practice. But I have found when I adjust people, it's a body awareness that you're creating for them. So the more that they get adjusted, their brain is tuning into areas of their body that, and chiropractic, we talk about restrictions in the spine, subluxations in the spine. And so when you have restrictions in the spine, the nervous system is unable to flow freely through those areas. There's so many joints in the spine. The brain, spinal cord, and all the nerves coming off the spinal cord have to flow through those areas of the vertebrae. And if they're restricted in any way, it can impede that flow of nervous function. And so when you're adjusting people, you're releasing those restrictions and allowing the nervous system to flow better. So maybe there are organs, muscles that have diminished in their function, or maybe they're high functioning because of the imbalance in the nervous system that's occurring. So there's that body awareness, I think, that people get from the adjustments, that they wake up and they suddenly can feel things and move things in ways that they couldn't before. But then on a flip side into more of the yoga realm, I'm adjusting the spine, which houses the chakra centers. So the energy centers there, I feel like, are diminished when there's a restriction in the spine. There's less energy flow. So when I adjust people, I'm opening or balancing the chakra centers too. And I don't always talk about that. It's more people, yogis that'll come in that will kind of, we'll talk about that. But I think generally people, that's what they're getting from the adjustments as well as the musculoskeletal benefits.
And what about your this? How does the spiritual part of your yoga practice and teaching started?
So I believe when I was practicing in the studios in Portland, I was doing, a friend invited me to a Bikram class, and that was my first experience with hot yoga. Loved it, loved that practice, and then it opened doors for vinyasa. That there was another studio that was teaching vinyasa and ashtanga classes, and so migrated over there. I did Bikram for several months, but got bored with the same postures over and over again, and the style of teaching was a little too militant for me. And then the vinyasa I fell in love with because of the creativity of the flow. It was different every time. I got into the ashtanga classes because of the vinyasa classes being offered at the studio, and I enjoyed it. I found myself, because of previous practice, years of practicing, that, well, I can do stuff in the secondary series. And they were like, but you can't go to the secondary series until you do all the poses in the primary series. And it was like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I think my level of commitment to yoga at that time was more free. Okay. And so I didn't want to go to an Ashtanga class 4 days a week and do those, after doing Bikram, doing the same postures over and over again. I was like, I don't want to do the same postures over and over again. I like the free-flowing, oh, today we're going to do this. Oh, and it might be in the tertiary series in Ashtanga. And so I did it. I liked it, and I jokingly said, oh, I'll probably get back to that in my 40s. I'm halfway through 40s and I'm not back to Ashtanga. But it was nice to be exposed to that. And then with all of those classes was the spiritual side that I got introduced to. So the pranayama, the meditation. I also came across, I was home visiting my family for Christmas, and my brother-in-law was reading a book that dealt with the chakra systems and how imbalances in the chakra systems leads to disease and dysfunction in the body. And I picked that book up. It was by Carolyn Miss, and it was like Anatomy of the Spirit, I believe is the name. And I locked in on that book. And when my sister and her husband left, I went and bought the book. I was like, I have to finish this book. It's amazing. And so that's what opened me up to the chakra side and more of the spiritual side of how, our thoughts, our actions manifest, our outlook and our paths, basically. And so that got me into more of the spiritual side too, was getting into reading those books, as well as the studio classes that I was taking that were talking about some of this. It's like, the light bulbs start going off. You're like, oh yeah, I read about that. Oh, and I just did that in my yoga class, and they talked about that. And so that was more where that path went. When I moved back here and wasn't going to yoga studios as much, I would take Margaret's class. I would take, yoga classes, but they were usually at the gym. They weren't as spiritual. They didn't want you to cross that line there. And so that was when I feel like I kind of pulled away from that side for a little while, plus just personal things going on in my life that kind of derail you from that normal focus. It was when I got into my teacher training that kind of relayed me back into that. So.
And you were totally allowed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was, you look back now and you're like, oh, well, yeah, that's why, and then you get back to it and you're like, oh, it grounds you. It's like that piece that you're like, oh, yeah, got to keep that going.
Okay. And you just mentioned that you had this personal, because you're married, you have children. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did you balance all this?
Yeah, so I did my teacher training before I got married. In fact, I had started my teacher training in September. I was in Dharma's first class at the Yoga Garden in Apex. And so we started in September, and my husband asked me to marry him in November.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so then we were planning a wedding while I was going through my teacher training, which was great. We did a destination wedding in the Caribbean, so it was really, we were planning a big party back here for everyone. So it was kind of fun planning, but doing my home practice, my daily home practice, my daily oming, my 1 day a week of silence, which, I look back and I'm thinking, my husband,
especially this silence.
He's so used to me doing so many weird things that he's just, I remember him was like, oh yeah, that's right, today's the day you can't talk. And he would try so hard to make me laugh and go joke with me, and I was writing him notes and everything. But that was fun, especially I'd go to him and be like, I have to do my yoga practice
also
now.
Had time to think, are you really going to marry
I know,
me?
right? Yeah. Do I really want to marry you? Are you going to keep this up? Oh yeah, I remember he'd be watching a hockey game or something on TV, and I'm like, I'm going to be doing my yoga practice. I have to om 30 times. And he was just like, whatever. Okay. Oh, it was funny. That was also when, I was vegetarian. Dharma had asked us, for part of the teacher training, I encourage you to be vegetarian. And I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to go all in. And and here's my husband, meat and potatoes guy. His family owns a beef farm in Ohio, and he was like, you're not going to eat meat. Okay. But he was very accommodating. He got black bean burgers for me at the restaurant and stuff. He was very supportive of what I was doing. But yeah, I graduated my teacher training, I think in May, and then we got married in July. I was already teaching too, so this was just a deeper dive into understanding more of the 8-limb path of yoga, and I think some people come into their teacher training like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to teach this in front of other people. That's their big obstacle. And mine was really more the 8-limb path. I was like, I already teach in front of people. I'm comfortable in front of people, and I'm used to cueing them.
At that time, you were teaching yoga.
And teaching other, forms of group fitness. Yeah. So for me, it was the challenge of being that committed. Like I didn't want to be committed to Ashtanga when I was in chiropractic college because it was too much of a commitment. Now I'm challenging myself to be committed and to focus on this and do these daily practices and daily journals and daily ohms and everything that was asked. And so that was kind of my teacher training. But that was good because I'm glad I did my teacher training then, because I think now with I owned my own business then, trying to balance that and family and, married life and stuff, that now that would definitely be a challenge to balance. So, yeah, I'm glad I got it done when I did. Before the chaos. Yeah.
And how do you think that your yoga practice and also teaching, kind of what is the effect of all this in your daily life, in your relationships with your family, friends?
Yeah, it's always there. Like anybody, you go through bouts of where I'm practicing on my own very consistently, and then times where, when was the last time I did a practice for myself? And so balancing that has been somewhat challenging. I feel like during COVID I was very good at it because, I had the time, and when I opened my practice in the yoga studio in Pittsburgh, there was nobody in the studio, and I had just opened a practice there, so it wasn't like I was super busy, so it was like, scoot in the studio and take a 90-minute class, log in on, and, have an instructor teach me.
You had a studio in Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Yoga Garden in Pittsburgh, I have a chiropractic practice there too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I opened that in May of 2020, and it was, so I was, every day that I was in the Yoga Garden, I'd see a patient or two, and then I'd go practice yoga and go home. And I also I took a trip to India in January of 2020 and connected with, instructors in the ashram over there that when COVID happened, I was able to take their classes on Zoom. So once a week I was taking a class on Zoom with an instructor in India. I was logging into Yoga Glow and following different instructors and taking their classes. So I was really good at my own practice then, and now I've kind of like fallen off the wayside. But I'll get back to it.
Well, everything is, like you can go to more places and meet more people.
Yes.
It's different.
Yeah, I go through cycles where I'm like, let's go to different studios and experience different instructors and different environments. And but as far as like home, I think my yoga practice has taught me a lot of breath work, deep breaths, patience. Being a mom and being busy and trying to be present, be present in the moment. It's definitely taught me that. It's taught me to let go of things that, you're not always going to do things perfect. You're not always going to be able to do those things, and you have to be able to let that go and let things ebb and flow. And relationships, I mean, it's a constant practice to try and be quiet and listen, be present for other people, to, not, try and, try to compromise, but also try and support where they are. My husband's super busy owning 2 restaurants and, other things that he stays on top of doing. We have rental properties and things like that, we kind of have to have an executive meeting every now and then. It's like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what you're doing, this is where, and so I feel like my yoga practice has helped with that too, just to be more present, hold space for him, and then, just having that patience. Yeah. I don't know if I'm answering these the best that I can.
Let's see if, do you have anything that you would like to, something that you could pass on to people that is starting the yoga teacher training and also start teaching?
Yeah, I would say big thing is just relax. It's a lot of information, but it's a lot of good information. The yoga teacher training for me introduced me to a lot of things that I had not been exposed to. Chakra sounds and bumblebee meditation and a lot of different elements of yoga that I had never been introduced to. So that was exciting. It was awkward. There, you always have that awkward phase of what in the world? This is, and no matter how much you try to put on the yoga poker face, like, oh yes, okay, this is very enlightening. You're like, what? Like, why do we do this? Where did that come from? So there, be curious, of course, be open to what you're learning, but relax into it. It wasn't really, I took all that in, practiced it. You go to a sadhana class that envelops more of that, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. It wasn't until I went to India and I was in the ashram and we're doing chakra sounds and bumblebee that I was like, oh my gosh, like this is legit stuff that I learned in my teacher training that I am now immersed in an ashram in Rishikesh, India doing. And I text Dharma while I was there, and I was like, thank you so much for such a wonderful teacher training, because everything that you taught me, I am doing here in this ashram in India. I feel so connected to the root of yoga, to my purpose with yoga than I ever have. And she was funny, she had just had foot surgery, and she was like, I'm so glad you texted me. Here I am feeling pitiful about myself, and you have just, let me know that, what I do is a good thing, and it was like such a good exchange to be able to connect that with her. And so then, hindsight, looking back at all my teacher training with that now, it was like, yeah, just soak it up. Soak it all up. Don't get too hung up on anything. Don't get too hung up on, I have to teach in front of the group, or I have to go and do so many hours with other students teaching them. Just relax into it. Do the best that you can. Nobody's going to be good when you start teaching. I would love to have a video of the first step class I ever taught. Oh my gosh, I'm sure that was just cringeworthy, and I'm sure people probably did walk out of my classes when I first started teaching group fitness class. So it's going to happen, and I still mess up to today. I mean, Joden, my son, was in my class today, and I'm like, step the left foot back. Oh wait, no, it's the right foot. He's like, no, it's the left one. I'm like, thanks. I think the more you can relax and just be human when you teach and know you're going to make mistakes. It's great to be nervous. It's great to be focused. It shows you care. It shows you're passionate about what you're doing and that you really do want to do a good job, but don't let it consume you. Enjoy the process and just take all the information for what it's worth. It might not make sense in the moment. It could be 5 years down the road that it finally clicks and makes sense. And so that's going to happen too. So that's the biggest thing, I think, is just relax and soak it all in and just enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which might not be so easy.
Yeah, at certain times it's not going to happen, but.
And is there anything that in your teaching experience that you remember that you think that is something that, or it might be something that was, oh, yeah, that was really good, or some mistake that you can forget.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But something that, you would share so that, I don't know, someone could
Yeah.
have
Gosh, I'm
a
trying.
lesson.
So I had a woman, and after I did my teacher training, I'm trying to think, I think I was already teaching Tuesday nights it was Lifestyle Fitness in Cary and Apex, and I taught a Tuesday night class in Apex and a Friday night class in Cary, and then Lifetime bought out Lifestyle, and they ended up closing the Cary location because obviously they already had the Lifetime location, and they changed the Apex location into Lifetime. So when I lost my Friday night class, that was such a good class. That was a Friday at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon class. Not a class that you think would be very popular. And that was the first yoga class that I taught that I thought, I'm going to play Jack Johnson and Bob Marley in class tonight. Like, I'm not going to play the yoga music. I'm going to play Smashing Pumpkins, you know, and started playing with the playlist there with those folks. And they were so fun. And that class grew from like 5 people to 15 people to 25 people on a Friday night. And that was such a cool thing. It wasn't like anybody was going out in the gym saying, hey, there's a yoga class coming, you should come join, and then they fell in with yoga. It was literally word of mouth, like friends that were like, I brought my friend to class.
By the way,
so fun.
I like your sometimes.
Yeah, that was when I really realized, like, oh, I'm a music person. I am like music trivia. I love all genres of music. I can incorporate that into yoga and have a good playlist, and I can master the playlist to start low and build and then taper off. And they loved it. It brought a whole new energy to class. It grew to 15 to 25 people on a Friday night at 6 o'clock taking a class. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. They really got into it. That's when I started getting more creative with my vinyasa flows and going out on a limb like, hey, we're going to learn this arm balance today. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And then people actually getting Pincha Mayurasana. And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember the timeline of teaching those classes with my yoga teacher training. I believe, I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's just kind of vague. I believe I was teaching the Tuesday night class before I started doing my yoga teacher training. And I think I was doing the Friday night class as well. And then I feel like it was after my yoga teacher training was when I really started having fun with the music. Lifetime bought Lifestyle and closed the Cary location because of their Cary location, but kept the Apex location. So when I lost my Friday night class, they added Thursday night in Apex for me. So I was teaching Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that was really cool because then I could see the same people on Tuesday night and Thursday night and really build. That's when I got into teaching, okay, every month we have a focus. So this focus this month will be crow pose. And we're doing all the strength work to build up throughout the month to get crow pose. So then, I was teaching, it was like, oh, tonight's focus is this. Well, then you're not, once a week, that's fine. But when you're doing twice a week, you can really start to build and really educate people on how to do a split, how to do a back bend, how to do a handstand, and really kind of break things down and slowly build them up to it to where at the end of the month, they're like, hey, I actually did a crow pose. When we sprinkle it in.
Also motivate people,
Yes.
Because if you see that, oh, I thought that I would never do that.
Yes.
And you start doing.
And then you have it in their head that this is all we're going to be working on for the month of March. They're like, oh, okay, even if I can't make every class, I know that that's the expectation and that's stuff I can take at home and do. I think when you go and you just take a random yoga class every now and then and you don't really know what the focus is, you never really build the strength consistently to be able to do some of these more challenging poses. So that's when I got into more of the challenging poses. It was after my teacher training that I started teaching a vinyasa class at the Yoga Garden in Apex on Saturdays. So now I was teaching Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I would do the same flow at the Yoga Garden that I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at the gym. And so that was really cool. I got a good following of folks that would come to the studio periodically. If they missed Tuesday, they'd come to the Yoga Garden on Saturday and take the class. So I was having more fun with music. I was having more fun with flows and challenging people and building each week greater and greater towards these more advanced postures. I've got stories. So I had one lady that would come to my class at the gym, and she would always be right up front. She still to this day is a dear friend of mine, and love her. but she did about 70% of what I taught. Maybe not even that. Maybe it was 60% of what I taught, and the other 40% was just her own flow. And she would drive the other people in class crazy, because here they're trying their best to follow me and do all the poses, and she's over here doing something completely random. And she didn't show up to class one night, and somebody said something like, "Oh, thank God she's not here," kind of thing. And I kind of giggled, and I was like, well, I lead you guys to water. I don't force you to drink. So I'm always showing you options, and you're always free to take those options. And you have to remember that she has that same freedom. And it's your yoga practice to not let her yoga practice affect your practice. And so I started that's when I would drop these subtle jokes in class about people doing their own thing and that it being okay. And it was kind of like, well, let me dabble in not trying to offend anybody, but remind them that you're here for yourself. You have to put your blinders on and be present for yourself and let other people, because that's what we have to do in the world. Yeah. There's people out there that are going to do things that we don't agree with, and they're allowed to do that. I mean, as long as it doesn't inflict harm on somebody else. But, it's okay that they live their life that way, and you have to sometimes put your blinders on and remind yourself of what's important to you and how you need to navigate life. And sometimes you look next door and you're like, I kind of like what they're doing. I'm going to start doing a little bit of that too. It's how we shape ourselves and shape your practice. And so that was she ended up being a very good lesson for everybody else.
Yeah.
I had this old man one time and come to my class. Lifetime was very weird about how they labeled my class. They didn't want me to call it Power Flow. They didn't want me to call it Vinyasa Yoga because of some signature classes that they had going on that incorporated those names. So then I was to call my class Hatha Yoga. And I was like, oh, it is not Hatha Yoga. I mean, if you want to encompass that Hatha is a lot of different things, then okay. But I'm going to attract people that are expecting gentle because of the name Hatha. And they're going to get Vinyasa, and it's going to be confusing. So I always, at the beginning of class, every class, I explained that. Even if it was one person that I'd never seen before, I explained that to everybody. So I get this old man, and I call him an old man. He was probably in his late 60s, early 70s, and not in the best shape of his life. But either a doctor or his wife or somebody told him, you need to take yoga. So he came to my class. And I remember him shaking in down dog, sweating, and I came over to assist him. And he comes down on his knees and looks up at me and he goes, so this is what it's like when a gymnast teaches a yoga class. And I was like, oh boy. And so I went up to him afterwards and I was like, I hope you're okay with the class. He was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I was like, well, I hope you're taking the options and, take your time with it. Yoga is not something that you just kind of pick up in a month of taking my classes. It took several years to get comfortable doing down dog. I always say it takes you 2 years to get good at doing down dog. It takes you 2 years to get comfortable at doing down dog. It takes 2 more years before down dog is a rest pose. So it's a process. And he laughed and he was like, but I am right. You were a gymnast, weren't you? And I was like, yeah, I was. And I was like, but that was a lifetime ago. And I have a completely different outlook of how I practice, how I move my body because of yoga. So, and he in a very nice way was like, they don't label your class correctly. And I said, you are so right. I don't think he ever came back. Or if he did, it was very sporadically. And it was usually just to kind of jerk my chain a little bit because he knew that he could joke with me and I took it well. But he was a fun guy. I'll just never forget that look in his face when he was like, so this is what it's like when a gymnast teaches a yoga class. Oh, but yeah, there's been lots of challenges over the years, I mean, from technical issues of, teaching at the gym, you had to wear a microphone. of that not working, or the music not working, or the power went out in the middle of my class one night. There was a thunderstorm and the power went completely out, and the safety lights came on in the room, the emergency lights. Well, I didn't think it was a big deal because I usually had the lights out anyways, and you know, we had, I don't know, Christmas lights or electric candles or something. So I kept teaching, and we got all the way to the end of class, and we were in our meditation, our shavasana, and the gym manager comes in. He's like, "What are y'all still doing here?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "We've evacuated the building. The power's out. There was a thunderstorm. They don't know when the power's going to come back on. Like, we're going to close the gym." And I was like, "Oh, well, we didn't know. We were peacefully in here taking our yoga class." And he was like cracking up. He's like, "I literally was about to lock the doors, and I realized that there were people in here." When I was teaching a class in the CrossFit gym, I started doing that 9 years ago. I started CrossFit 9 years ago, and the owner of the gym at the time used to take my yoga classes on Friday evenings in Cary. And so when I moved my chiropractic practice in here, he was like, you have to start CrossFit. And I was like, I was pregnant at the time with my son, and I was like, let me have my son, let me have my baby and get through, you know, my maternity leave and everything, and then I'll consider joining CrossFit. And he said, well, regardless, I want you to teach yoga back here. And I was like, okay. So I started CrossFit in May, and 2 weeks later I started teaching a yoga class on Wednesday nights, and so that's spiraled into my CrossFit journey, and I'm teaching yoga here at the gym. So my Wednesday night class, it was a summertime class, so I had the garage doors open. I think the front door was open. I had the lights out, and I took Christmas lights and did them around the floor. And it was a floaty yin class. So we were at the end of class, and there's a storage area out back, self-storage area. So somebody had driven into the self-storage area and seen that the garage doors were open and the lights were out, and thought, oh, somebody did not properly close the CrossFit gym. So they didn't know who to call. I think they tried to call the property management group for the self-storage, and they didn't answer. So they called the sheriff's department, the Wake County Sheriff's Department, and said, I just don't know if it feels uncomfortable to me. Could you go and check that? So I'm teaching my class, and these headlights come in through the front door at me, and I'm like, God, who is blaring their headlights? And that's a handicapped parking spot there, so nobody ever parks there. And these headlights are beaming in, and I see somebody walking back and forth in front of the headlights, the shadows going by. And I had them in a yin pose, holding pigeon probably for 6 minutes. And I was like, let me go and kind of check this out. So I go tiptoeing up to the front as the sheriff comes in the front door with his flashlight that he's now flashing around. Because now I'm like, antennas up. Like, why does somebody have a flashlight that they're flashing around? And kind of bold of me to be walking up there anyways. And we come together, and he goes, who are you? State your name. I was like, Heather, I'm a yoga teacher. And he goes, oh, Jesus Christ. This is a big dude. And he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm teaching a yoga class. He's like, I'm so glad I didn't draw my weapon on you. Like, he thought I was an intruder. And he was catching me. Oh, it was, we both, like, almost had a heart attack, and then laughed. And then I was like, can you go? I'm finishing up teaching my class.
Do you want to join us?
I know. He was like, make sure you close up when you leave. I was like, I will, I promise. It was so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, that moment of zen was gone when he was like, I'm glad I didn't draw my weapon on you. I was like, oh dear God.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't either. Lots of stories over the years of mishaps in yoga classes, and but all end up being fun. All the situations I can laugh about now, and you just kind of learn to roll with it.
Yeah. And how do you deal with injury? I think that in your case, it's I don't know if it's easier, but you have your chiropractic, and your background, academic background, because especially when you're doing adjustments, or you don't want to kind of force people, but you don't
Very good
want
question.
to be just afraid and not do anything.
I'm more of a hands-off instructor. I feel like there are times when, yes, I will come and kind of straighten somebody's arm. There's those things that people are doing that they're just not even aware of, that if I kind of nudge them a little bit in one way, they're like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about with that alignment. Or let me straighten your arm. Oh, I didn't even realize my arm wasn't straight. Or let me straighten your back knee, in a lunge or something like that. I will do some gentle things like that. But when I was in the ashram in India, it was like the guy was laying on me and grabbing my legs, and it was an intense, very aggressive, for lack of a better term, adjustment, which I was okay with because of years of doing yoga. I mean, I've been doing yoga since 1998, and it's 2024 now. So lots of understanding of yoga and different instructors through the years and different degrees of assisting, and that was definitely the heaviest handed assistance I had ever had. So I would never do that style of assisting on anybody, because I feel like there were other people at the ashram that did not have much of a yoga background, and I feel like the instructor kind of put them in pain. But who knows? But I'm more of a hands-off. I like to cue people as best that I can, use my words and demonstrate, and then cue more. I like people to express themselves. There's not a perfect pose for everybody. We have different shaped joints, different lengths of our limbs, and different strengths and weaknesses and imbalances and flexibilities, and there's just so many different factors that go into how somebody does a pose compared to somebody else. And I rarely ever find that people are doing things dangerously. It's little things like, oh, turn your wrist this way, that can affect your shoulder and an arm balance that, I'm always looking for. But for the most part, people are doing things safely. They might not have the best alignment. Is that really going to damage you? Repetitively, possibly. But if I can go and just nudge their shoulder in the right position or straighten their arm, then it's a gentle reminder of, oh, that's what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Because sometimes they're not hearing the words. They're so focused in the posture that they're not hearing things. Not that I don't like, I always, when I take a class and they're like, if you want to be assisted, let us know. I always raise my hand, and rarely does anybody ever assist me. So it's always a degree of students that, newbies, you're going to kind of assist more than the seasoned practitioner. As far as injuries go, yeah, I feel like my chiropractic background helps, because I deal with people in pain all the time. And so usually when somebody comes to me with an injury, I don't ever have anybody, I can't even think of a time in the last years that I've been teaching that somebody's come and said, when we did that pose, it hurt, or I hurt myself, or, so in those moments, I think people are cognizant of, oops, I probably went farther than I should have, like a hamstring kind of thing, where they're like, whoops, went a little too far. I always, because I am a physician, I can advise them, go home, ice, if it's something that perpetuates or you feel like is more, come talk to me. We can either see you in the office or recommend you to go to a physical therapist or orthopedist or somebody like that. When you're an instructor and you don't have a medical background, I think it's best to, when dealing with an injury, now whether they come in and they're like, hey, if they come to class and they're like, I have this knee thing going on, then okay, you're aware of, okay, when I'm teaching certain things, oh, knee, hey. if you're feeling this in your knee, modify here. But if they come to you after class and they're like, when we did pigeon, I felt it in my knee and now my knee hurts, then it's like, okay, well, for future reference. Yeah, if somebody, lets you know that, that I tweaked something in class when we did this, I think it's always important to say, okay, well, definitely modify that in future practices until you can figure out what maybe triggered it. Because if it's, say, your knee in pigeon pose, okay, well, the next time you come, put a blanket under your hip, or maybe do a figure 4 pose. Get comfortable doing modifications of pigeon instead of just going into pigeon, so that we minimize the stress on the knee. That is also where knowing your anatomy is really good, and understanding what the posture is supposed to stretch. Every now and then you're going to get somebody that is like, I feel it here, and you're like, well, you shouldn't, because that's not what the pose is. So then you have to kind of backpedal and go, okay, let's break down the pose so that we get you in the position that stretches or activates what the goal is for that pose. So if you know your anatomy well, and you know your poses well, and you're cueing people well, and maybe doing gentle assists, very gentle assists, the risk of injury is minor. Then it's usually in their court. It's like, okay, well, you went too far. You did something that you weren't ready to do, or you pushed yourself when you should not have. And so it's okay as an instructor to say, well, you may have pushed a little too hard. So next time, you come to class, take a little bit more time getting into the pose. Maybe pause, and see how the body's responding before you quickly push or grab your knee and pull yourself into this pose. Remind people that they have to check their ego. I mean, just because, that's what the pose looks like doesn't mean that's what you have to do, and giving yourself permission to modify. And I think verbiage is huge with people, when you remind them that, you choose to be here and you're giving yourself permission to do these things. It's like, it kind of changes their perspective.
Do you think that people also are a little reluctant to use props?
Oh, yeah. You always get those folks. Oh, I don't need a prop. Yeah, I've got one of those that is she was in the Sunday class this morning. She's always in my classes, and I love her, and she does great, and she loves my classes. But yeah, she's one of those where I'm like, you're going to need a block today. And she's like, no, I don't. And then I'm like, but no, like, we're actually holding the block for a purpose. So you needed a block to, and then I'm having to throw her a block, She's gotten a little bit better through the years, but you will always have those people that are like, I don't need it, And I probably was like that 20 years ago too. Like, I don't need to have a block to do my warrior, But now I've learned, like, it's kind of fun to use props. It's kind of fun to modify things and feel it a little bit better, and then go deeper, and then, or challenge yourself with props. So I've gotten better at including them in the practice, whether it's an assistant for somebody or it's a tool. A lot of times, when I teach my power flow, I'm like, you're going to need your blanket today. You're going to need 2 blocks today. You grab a strap. And so that way everybody's got it, and then they go, oh, I didn't realize I could use a block like that. That's cool. And then you're like, yeah, it's not just because you can't do something that you need a prop. It's just you can feel things different and have fun with it and use it as a tool. So yeah, there's always those folks.
Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Gosh, I don't know. There's so much that
I know it's a
on.
short time.
I know, yeah.
We can do a second, like all the things that I remembered later.
I think it's also good to just be very you when you teach, when you practice yoga. At the beginning of my classes, I always have people center themselves, acknowledge where they are, what they notice, how they feel, setting an intention. And I do that in my own practice. And like this morning I was teaching and I was like, I do this now when I do CrossFit or when I go to the trail to run. Like, what's my intention? What's my purpose? Why did I choose to be here today? And then I still am myself. I think when I was younger doing yoga, I thought I had to like put on the yoga face and go in and be very serious and, you know, it was almost like, dress the part until you can do the part. It was like I felt masquerading kind of in a way. And now I've learned that like it's fun to joke and to let go and to I will log into the computer.
Personalize your soundtracks.
Yeah, exactly. Just really let your own personality shine. 20 years ago, if the lady that did her own flow was in my class, it probably would have bugged me too. And I probably would have thought, oh God, she doesn't fit. She doesn't quite fit. And now those are the people that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you're in class because you kind of like take the seriousness level down a notch so that we can all just be ourselves and know that we're all here to try and better ourselves. There's times I log into the computer to do my own practice and I'm like, I can't do you today, you're talking too much, or I get halfway through a practice and I'm like, I'm not feeling this, and I probably give myself too many liberties to go, let's find another class. And then an hour and a half later, I'm like, did I ever do anything?
Do you sometimes attend like in person all the class?
Yeah, I do. Especially when I travel. I love when we go on vacation to places. I try to find a yoga studio or even a CrossFit gym because it's always neat to be a stranger. Nobody knows
Nobody
you.
knows that you.
Nobody has any clue about you. I went to the studio in Charlotte back in November that it was a hot yoga studio. They had the infrared panels on the ceiling. I'd never been in an infrared hot yoga class before. And it was just so cool to be like, you feel like you're the fly on the wall. Like you're just the visitor that, nobody knows who you are. You can make a few connections if you want. You can stay to yourself if you want. Like, I don't know, it's just fun. And I think I sometimes feel like I'm in those situations to lighten the mood for those around me. I remember there was a girl, she was a little heavy set, and she seemed to be new to yoga, because she was having to pause a lot and look around and see what everybody was doing because she wasn't really sure of what she was doing. And so at one point we like stopped to towel off, and I just kind of looked her way and smiled, and she was like, "You really know what you're doing." I was like, "Well, just follow me, just follow me." And then we would do something, and I'd kind of like slip or giggle or something like that. And I think I kind of like let her relax a little bit because she was like, "Oh, thank God you allowed me to look at you," because I think she felt bad looking at everybody else, like, "Oh, I'm not really supposed to do this." And then I gave her permission to just look at me. If you don't know what's going on, it's fine. And then I kind of like would giggle at her, when I couldn't do something, or I'd fall or do, and it kind of helped her relax. So I was like, she's never gonna see me again. That was in Charlotte. So I'm just that little angel that came in and gave her permission to relax a little bit and have fun with this class, and then I exit and she never sees me again. It's like, it's kind of cool to play that part. But around here I go through phases of taking in-person classes. I go to Core Power Yoga in Cary. That's kind of where I go now. I didn't think I would like it. I thought it would be too corporate, boxy, franchisey. And then I went and I found a class on Friday nights at 5:30. Love that time. And the instructor's awesome, and the flows are very creative and fun, and it's hot, and I feel like I just leave the week on the mat in puddles of sweat. And I leave just completely refreshed. And I love that I didn't have to think about what to do, or if I wanted to pause the computer or change the class on the computer. Like, no, you committed to coming in here and you can't walk out.
Yeah,
like, you
and
know,
that's,
yeah,
yeah,
this is what whatever the instructor's going to deliver today is what you have to take. And I love that. So yeah, I haven't been there in several weeks because of scheduling, but I need to.
And talk a little about this kind of different styles, or how is it to teach here? Because I think that a lot of people do CrossFit and yoga, which I think that is it's a different public than if you go to a yoga studio.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. When I started teaching here, after I started the classes here, I was still teaching Tuesdays and Thursday nights at Lifetime. Lifetime was getting very, they were putting the pressure pretty hardcore for me to not teach the way that I taught. They wanted me to not roll out a yoga mat and not demonstrate anything. They had gotten, and I guess they're still in there, into this Johnny Cassese kind of style of teaching, and I didn't agree with it. I was like, no, I am quite happy with the style that I teach. I'm always open to suggestion and criticism and stuff, but at the same time I was like, no, I don't buy into what you want me to do. And it was kind of a buy-in situation. And I was like, no, I have 30 to 40 people in my class every Tuesday, Thursday night, which is amazing. That's what you get at a gym, which is always fun. But why do I need to change what I'm doing completely when this is the response that I'm getting? And so it kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? I started teaching over here at the CrossFit gym. Like, if that's what they want, I'll just bow out and let them get their trained instructors in to teach the way they want to teach, and I'll come over here and teach. So several of my students followed me over here, and some of those still come to class now, 9 years later. But some of them came in and were like, oh my God, there's like rings and bars and weights, and it's not a yoga studio. I mean, there's nothing peaceful, calming, and appealing about a CrossFit gym at all when it comes to yoga.
The floor is different.
Yes, they've got stall mats on the floor that they use in a barn. You know, it's like, it's not your cozy yoga space.
Also, what about the people that do CrossFit?
Yeah.
Because it's a little different.
Yeah, so yeah, they have a different goal. I mean, they're doing yoga to increase their mobility and their flexibility because they realize lifting weights and everything that they're not very flexible. And some of them are dealing with injuries. Some of them have a shoulder injury or a low back injury that, you know, they're trying to scale CrossFit to still do things, but then they realize, oh, the yoga is probably what's going to help me get through this injury and gain more flexibility, core strength, you know, kind of all of that. It's cool because a lot of the CrossFitters that have been taking my class for years now, that was what they thought they were going to do, was just stretch. Like, I'm just going to yoga to stretch. And now they realize, the setting of the intention, the focus on the breath, it has filtered into their CrossFit workouts. They're able to be more mindful of their breath and how to control it in their workouts. I think they're kind of like me. They've learned to set an intention with their CrossFit workout. Like, today my intention is to, you know, push. Or today my intention is to breathe steadily. You know, something like that kind of sets the tone for their CrossFit workout. So they have definitely seen yoga help them in more ways than just being flexible. And then I've had some of the yogis start CrossFit because they're like, wow, you know, I do your classes and I feel stronger, but obviously lifting weights is going to make me stronger. And so it's neat to see the crossover of people. I think it's a fantastic balance. I mean, the yang energy of CrossFit and sweating and go all out and lifting weights and the gymnastics moves right there. When you go and do yoga, it helps your gymnastics moves in CrossFit. And it's just a good balance of slowing things down. Even though I teach a power flow class, we're still slower than CrossFit. You're still not getting your heart rate to where CrossFit does. So I think it's a great balance to and a complement for each other.
Well.
Yeah.
If you have anything to share, if not, we.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very fortunate that, through gymnastics, exercise physiology, chiropractic, yoga practice, group fitness, CrossFit, I've I feel like I've really let things flow together.
Do you have any plans for your future, like your yoga path future? Or would
That's
you
a
like
good
to be
question.
a teacher trainer, for example?
Well, like helping out with the teacher trainings, definitely. Yeah, I enjoy that. And then I love workshops. I've gotten out of, COVID kind of put the brakes on workshops, and they're back up and running, and I haven't planned anything. And I would like to get back into that because spending 2 hours focusing on something is always fun. Getting back, I always kind of thought, eventually I'll do my 500 hour or I'll do another 200 hour at a different. I really respect Tiffany Krishak. She's an international teacher. She's based out of, I think she lives in Seattle now. She was living in Portland when I was out there, and she was a yoga teacher at the Nike headquarters, and she's also an acupuncturist. And through her years, she has now branded yoga medicine, and she focuses a lot on fascia release, meridians, and acupuncture points, and the yoga practice. And so I always kind of thought it'd be really cool to take one of her teacher trainings. Like, I think that would be a really neat complement to my chiropractic and my yoga to take yoga medicine teacher training from her. So it's always in the back of my mind. It probably wouldn't be something that I would do until the kids are grown and gone, because I would have to travel to do that teacher training. But will I ever go back to Ashtanga? I don't know. I'm 45. I haven't gotten back to it yet. So I don't know. I'm always just kind of open. I'm not a big, this is going to sound really kind of funny, but I'm not a big goal setter. I'm not one that really sets a goal and is like fixated on that, because I'm too free. I'm too much of a free spirit, and I go on a lot of hunches. I have a very strong voice in my head that will just kind of like bang, kind of lightning bolt me sometimes, and I'm like, oh, okay, I hear you. Yep, that's what I got to do now. And so I kind of like the element of unknown and letting things unfold and present themselves to me. And I'm a procrastinator by nature, and I think sometimes that benefits me, because if I let things go and I don't act on it and it sticks around, it's meant for me to eventually get to. But if I miss the opportunity, then maybe it was something that I was not really truly meant to do. So yeah, I don't really have any goals or plans. Yeah, I just kind of let things unfold. Yeah. I know, I'm a weirdo like that.
Well, I think that many times you have so many plans and they don't develop the way that you plan.
Exactly.
So in one, for
no
one view,
expectations.
it's better.
Yeah. That's what I try to teach my kids. Things don't always go as planned. You have to be flexible and still maneuver and be okay with that.
Yeah.
With the changing patterns of things. Yeah.
Well, Heather, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for asking me to do this. This is great.
Yeah.
Always fun to share little nuggets and stories and.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellie. Good luck to you with your teacher training.
Thank you.
Yeah.